Good evening and welcome to another talk from the training department. I'm Sam Usher, and this evening we're going to be chatting all around the role of the senior instructor in dinghy centres and the development process for that. This evening we're welcomed with Liz, so thank you for joining us, Liz. Adam McGovern, thank you, Adam, and Jane as well. So hopefully we'll have a good informative chat for you all, and thank you for those tuning in. People from all four corners amazingly from all four corners around the globe. So I think it's a good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. So thank you for joining us. We're diving into the whole role of the SI and how we kind of develop and move from a dinghy instructor through to becoming a senior instructor. And I suppose on a personal level, that ability to kind of unleash some of your own personal potential and keep moving forwards in the sport and the sort of gains from the rewards of becoming a senior instructor. So I suppose it's just a bit of an open chat, isn't it, guys? So suppose for me, I can remember way back to when I became a senior instructor, which is too long ago to mention, really. A very cold course at Plesmanae, in fact. And I can remember being pretty nervous in the run-up to it. Quite green behind the ears, I would have said, as a fairly new dinghy instructor. I've been teaching for a short period of time before I did my SIs. But how's things changed, and if I was to go and do that again now, Liz, what sort of stuff, what's my prep, what level of experience would I need before a course?
So I think it's going to be different for everybody. The experience is going to look different depending on what your background is. So it might be that actually, do you know what, you volunteered at your club for a number of seasons, for a few hours a week, for a number of weeks over the summer, but you've actually worked with people of different ages or sort of different abilities, so you've kind of seen a few different bits. Or it might be that you've done a season in the UK or abroad and you're like, actually, I quite like the look of that. What I would say really in terms of experience of instructing, you've seen different things. You're not just looking at one type of session, so you're looking at some of the different levels, both from like the beginners and actually into those advanced modules as well, so seamanship, those bits, so you kind of know what good looks like. If you're only seeing it from total beginners, it can be a little bit tricky when you go on the course that you haven't seen it. So you don't have to have a huge amount of experience of it. You could go down to a local centre and see something different, but that would probably be my one top tip, is make sure you know what a few different sessions, both kids and adults, might look like as well. I think would be a big one.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned there about kind of knowing what good looks like and a bit of broad range of experience across the syllabus. How can we prep for that? What's the sort of people on the call? What's your thoughts? What did you guys do? I suppose, I won't dare say how many years ago, but what sort of prep would you recommend?
Well, I think there's a couple of bits. The first one is sailing prep. So I think these days we get a lot of people from clubs, especially, that sail single-handed boats quite a lot. So they're really competent in the single-handed side of things. So I'd recommend just getting out and refreshing your skills in a double-hander as well, and doing some of those basic manoeuvres like picking up a mooring, coming alongside a jetty, man overboard, because it's stuff we might not do every day, but it's just good to refresh your knowledge in a double-handed side of things as well as single-handed, and let's say vice versa if you're like a GP sailor like me that never gets in a single-hander. So that's one thing. And I think then the other thing that I get asked a lot, that people nervous about, is the workbook, and I think they think it's a bigger thing than it is, really. So the workbook is a really important tool to prep for the course, because it gives you a load of that background information and a load of the shore-based stuff that helps us reduce the length of the course and make it a really practical course. So it is really useful for your future knowledge on the course. But I think people worry that it's going to be something that they hand in and get marked with a red pen, and it's not that. It's used on the tool as a learning tool for people to come with and ask questions that they're not sure on, ask question areas that they didn't know, or or give the confident answers where they do know. But preparation, getting your head into that book and giving it a go is the main thing. But don't be put off by it, because it's used as a learning tool on the course. Like I put up a big whiteboard, Peyton just say, write on that and tell us what you're not sure of, and we'll have a discussion over it because someone else in this room won't be sure as well. But I'm not sure anyone else thinks.
And just thinking about, so from some of my experience where I've seen quite a bit of nervousness is potentially from kind of very club-based instructors who have maybe only ever taught at their club, and their club might happen to be on a pretty small or very sheltered piece of water. Jane, have you got any thoughts around what sort of prep those individuals could do, particularly because quite often the course isn't going to be at their home club and it could be at a piece of water that might be a little bit intimidating?
So it's worth looking at whether you can maybe go and hire a boat at the venue that you're going to for the course, so that you get a bit of time on the water there, and also get a bit of the lay of the land around where all their kit lives, and kind of just make yourself feel a little bit more at home. So that'd be one way of doing it. And obviously the other option would be to go to somewhere else that's maybe similar, just to get your experience up. But I think also just try and work out what sorts of boats they've got too, just linking in with Adam's point a minute or two ago around, well, what if they've got boats that you've never sailed before? Maybe there's that's another good way of getting yourself prepared. Go and sail those boats if they'll let you. I mean, I'm sure they'll be very accommodating because you'll ask nicely. But just give yourself every chance to be successful. So if you're worried about something, sit down and actually think about, well, how can I make that issue disappear? And the couple of things I was going to suggest, in addition to the question you asked me, Sam, was around, well, maybe shadowing an SI might be something helpful, just to get an idea of what sort of experience you might need. But the other one I wanted to pick up on was your powerboat skills too. I know we're giving people quite a long list of stuff to think about before the SI course, but actually getting in a powerboat and just making sure you can do the little bits and bobs, and things like laying marks, that sort of thing. It always helps to just refresh your powerboat skills as well as you're sailing.
I think it's doing those basic things with the powerboat, like you say, is that hand on the throttle, just good practice powerboating we sometimes can get some bad habits. So just refresh your general PB2 and safety boat skills by volunteering at your club or your centre a bit more, and just think what is best practice, because as an SI, that's what you're going to be demonstrating. Good point.
Yeah, and I think picking up that point you just said there, Jay, I think of trying to do a bit of shadowing as well. Getting around, and if there's a chief instructor or an experienced senior instructor that you know or can do a bit of shadowing within your centre, or another one even better, getting out of your own location and trying somewhere new. I think that, I did some of that, I can remember many years ago, and it was great. And Adam, you mentioned a few points around some of the things you do when you're, as a trainer, running a senior instructor course. But what's the, for the benefit of the people on the call, what's the course look like now in terms of its structure? How is it? Because I know obviously we have a couple of trainers on it, and just thinking back to some of that prep stuff, they're all approachable. They'll, for anyone that's a bit nervous before the course, reaching out to the trainers that are running the course and asking them what boats are we going to be using, and those kind of pieces. That is always a possibility and helpful.
No, I think,
what's the course look like? What's the structure?
It was a 4-day course, and it's very much practical. Get on the water as much as we can. There's some shore-based stuff that goes along with all the training courses that you do, but it's 4 days of learning, basically. It's not 4 days of assessment, but 4 days of being judged. It's 4 days with a group of like-minded instructors that are looking to progress to the next level, and 2 trainers that are there to support you and get you to that next level. They're not there to judge you. The part of it is assessment, and looking at passing is all part of it, but they're there to try and get you to the level by the end of the 4 days where you can be an SI. So it's quite an informal, I'd say, 4 days where don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're not sure in a particular area, put your hand up and say so. And when you're dishing out sessions, don't be afraid to say, I've not run that one before, I'd like to have a go at that, just so people can tell me what they think. But it's very much 4 days of learning and getting as much as you can from a experienced group of people while you can, basically.
Yeah, I'll just pick up on that as well, because I think that's super important. And I think it's no 2 courses that I've run over the years have ever been the same, because actually the courses are generated by the people on them. So depending on the experience they have and what you're interested in, those courses will change and develop with the group on it. And I think that's really important. And I think the other thing to kind of put in there is, on the course, it is a training course, but you're in that room on that course because you're really good. And I think the biggest thing I see and say to candidates during the course is, have confidence in yourself. Don't change what you're doing because you think a trainer wants to see it or hear it differently to how you normally would. Be yourself. Go with your gut instinct to something because you have the experience to back you up for it. And that's the biggest thing I would say, is it's about, what good looks like within your venue. It's no different at a different venue. So really believe in yourself when you go on these courses, because that's what it's about. And the trainers aren't there to catch you out. So there is some horror stories of trainers taking bungs out of boats and things like that. It doesn't happen. You'll do that all by yourself, or issues will happen on the water without the trainers needing to engineer it. But it's that they're not there to catch you out; they're there to support you. And that's one of the bits I really want people to understand, is actually we're there to help.
It sounds very much like 4 days of coaching and development as opposed to 4 days of assessment. And I think, to me, it sounds very much like people if they go into it with the mindset of, I'm here to learn, as opposed to, crikey, if I get something wrong, I'm going to fail. Then they're going to, going with that learning mindset, then they're going to have a good time and a good experience on it.
Yeah, and that was the so I was just going to say that was the exactly what happened on the last course I ran. We had a full course, but they were super nervous coming on because I think they just thought it was very formal, very assessment based. And as soon as they relaxed into the course, obviously with the banter and the joy that I bring to a course, but as soon as they relaxed into the course, we got so much more out of it because they realized they were there to learn and they could ask anything they wanted. It was a room for people to ask what they wanted and get the answers they needed. And as soon as that mindset changed, the course was so much better. And it's natural being nervous, but it's just trying to treat it as a learning experience.
And there's also one other element that we need to remember to include in all of this, which is that we get to go sailing. We get to talk about sailing. And we get to go sailing, and what's not to love about that, So we get
maybe if it's snowing, Jane.
Oh, okay.
And so we've sort of chatted through some of the course and what that kind of looks like, but if I was an instructor now, why should I bother? What's the becoming a senior instructor? What's the big deal, really? I suppose what's the hype?
So becoming an SI is not only a bit of personal development. So there's an opportunity to develop your own personal sailing skills, your personal management skills, and learn a little bit more about the world of sailing. But it's also gives an opportunity for clubs and centres to continue to remain our way training centres. It allows, I suppose, more opportunities for more instructors to come on board too, because without senior instructors, we can't develop instructors, because senior instructors get to also deliver instructor training. We get to deliver assistant instructor training, and you're going to be able to help to get more people on the water ultimately. So there's a bit of extrinsicness to this as well. So we mustn't forget that if you become a senior instructor and you're in the world where you can be paid for what you're doing, then sometimes that means a little bit more money. But there's an awful lot of intrinsic value in becoming a senior instructor as well. Did I mention it's a really good fun course? Can I just say that?
And I think that's really important. I think it's twofold. We get quite a lot of instructors who have done a couple of seasons and want to go on another season. And actually, this is a really good first step into that management that you can then use in whole walks of life later on, outside of sailing. And I also think and I must admit, it's the same for me. I volunteer with my kids section at the local sailing club. And that's something that's awesome to give back to a sport that's given me so much. And I think sometimes it's twofold. And it's remembering this is an on-water qualification. And sometimes we think that the SI involves sitting in an office. It can in some jobs, but that's the job, not the role, if that makes sense. So this is an on-water qualification. And as Jane said, it's about going sailing, and it's about knowing what good looks like on the water and being that role model out there. And some of the bits on the side kind of happen with the different jobs you do. So I think it's that, and it's remembering that you've always got a network of people behind you. Your chief instructors and your principals are there to support you. So if you're unsure, although you're now kind of that level of management who's looking after the water, actually you've got other people who can give you the support. And very rarely will you be left sort of on that own when you first start out, and you'll build up the confidence in yourself as you do it.
Yeah, indeed, that's kind of the key functions of your chief instructor, isn't it, within the centre structure, and then the principal sitting above them. And if it's within a club environment, then obviously the principal's also got support with committee and things like that as well. So there is a whole raft of people, isn't there, I think, supporting you, plus sort of championing you as well, actually, and supporting you moving forwards. I think, it's sounds like a great piece to do. And Liz, you mentioned about being an on-water qualification. Does that the same applies to the course? I take it, in that the vast majority of it is about what happens on the water. Am I right?
Yeah, very much so. And at the end, the safety side is the bit that we're really looking for out on the water. It's sort of, can people sail? Can they drive a powerboat safely, as Jane said earlier? Can they run sessions? Have they got a bigger picture awareness, and can they communicate? And those are kind of the things we're generally looking for as trainers. And it's the stuff on the water, because actually, let's be honest, where's it going to go wrong? It's not going to go wrong in a classroom. It's going to go wrong on the water. So I'd expect most of the courses to be predominantly water-based. That's where you'd expect to spend your time, because that's where we want you to spend your time, not sat in an office drinking coffee, but actually out enjoying what we do. I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. I think less coffee drinking and more time on the water. If it's a piece of interest for people wanting to progress and move forwards, become an SI, which I think personally, from my own experience, I would definitely encourage people to do. But and they feel that they're ready, but they're maybe not sure if they're ready. What's the next steps? How do they move forwards if they're kind of unsure and maybe just want to dip the toes in the water? Excuse the pun.
I think the best thing is to reach out. Each region's got great regional teams. Me and Sam, as the RDOs for the North, will attest to that. But what I say is reach out to your regional teams, your training teams, your RDOs, your SDOs, your disability development officers. We've got a whole host of people there that can support you and give you that advice. All our details are found on the regional pages of the website, so fairly easy to find, hopefully. And that's who I'd reach out to first, if outside of your organisation. But internally, just if you're thinking of taking the next steps, I'd just speak to your chief instructor, your team internally, and see what they think, because you need their recommendation to go on the course, and they're the best people that know you. If you're wanting more information, that's when you might want to reach out to the sort of regional training teams and the RDOs and those alike. If you've decided that that's it, I want to have a look and I want to see if there's a course for me, that's when, again, speak to every SI course in a region has to be approved by the regional development officer for that area. So we will know about all courses happening in that region. So you can contact your regional development officer and they will be aware of all the courses planned in the calendar year that they've been asked to run. The other way is to go onto the regional sections of the website, and once the booking forms are open and live, they will appear on those regional course pages. And then alternatively, all the big centres in most regions, I think, generally run at least one course a year. So those big commercial providers, I was just at Plasmani the other week, so that's the one that jumps into my mind in Wales. But just check their websites out as well, and you can find a whole host of information on there. So reach out for advice first, and then get online or speak to the RDOs for your course.
Awesome, thank you, Adam. And we are in a time where the pound has been buying less, substantially less, I think, now than ever before, and it can be quite a stretch, particularly for people that may be volunteering and not actually looking to do the training for commercial or financial benefit. But is there any sort of funding routes available at all?
Yeah, I think the two that spring to mind to me, first of all, is we've got the Our Foundation, which is part of the organisation and funds a whole host of different reasons, and that's one to look at and potentially reach out if your needs and requirements fit the remit of the foundation. The other thing is we've just launched, I think last year launched it, was the Our Funding Finder, which is used a lot by clubs and centres to try and find funds, but there's no reason why an individual can't get on there and look for little local bursaries and grants. Because that's there's loads of sort of those really random bespoke little bursaries and grants that are available that you won't know about, but the Funding Finder is a really good tool to help find those ones.
Okay.
And I think some clubs and centres also will help you with this if it's in their interest, and clubs often will give back to their people. So I think it's well worth asking, when you ask about the course, ask your chief instructor or principal about if there's any opportunities to help with it.
Yeah, I always say if you don't ask, you don't get, do you? And
Exactly.
obviously a lot of the clubs that I work with do offer money and support towards it as long as you volunteer back to your clubs. And I'm sure centres do a similar thing.
And Jane, anything sort of, because obviously you're sitting a bit further north, anything different in terms of potential routes for people getting some support towards training?
I think first off, just to be a little bit clear, the senior instructor courses are always run by RWA Scotland up here, so that's a little bit different, I guess. Yeah. In terms of funding, well, I confess to not being overly familiar with the RWA Funding Finder, so I will go and look that up later. But there are similar mechanisms in Scotland that allow you to go, especially on the Scottish Council for Voluntary Organisations, you can go there and use their funder finder. Which is very good. But there are also local authorities very often have coach education pots of funding, which can be a really great way of getting yourself supported, in addition to the options that Liz already suggested around clubs and centres looking to help people out. Yeah. But I would also start with RWA Scotland, to be honest. I think they would also have a pretty good idea as to where to go if there's funding. They may also have funding too. So it is worth asking them as well.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And I'm sure the same applies for our counterparts in Wales as well, with Our Cymru Wales and reaching out to them, and I'm sure they'll be able to direct you to Welsh specific funding streams. So,
I did just check as well, Simon. If you Google Our Funding Finder, funding page is the top hit on Google, so it's fairly easy to find.
Nice.
Okay. Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you, Adam. Well, that's great. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I think that kind of brings us to a wrap. We have had a few questions come in, but I think, Adam, you've probably covered them off, because it was around how we can find where the courses are. So you mentioned around going on to the RWA pages and looking up for the regions or the home countries, and when they're available for the RWA specific courses, finding them on there, or reaching out to some of the larger centres in the different regions.
I'd say definitely. Sorry, Sam, just to chip in the last bit, just definitely, if you can't see one listed, reach out to either your region or, especially if you're overseas, reach out to training as well, because they'll know of some. But in particular, windsurfing, they're few and far between at the minute, and I'm really keen to see some more happen. But if you don't see one, ask someone, ask training, or ask your regional team, because they will be able to start putting a list together and actually get a viable course going. If it's numbers which are the problem for courses, particularly the windsurf senior instructor course, because that's often the barrier. So just because it's not listed, don't be afraid to ask.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Plenty of top tips there. Reaching out, I think that's been a pretty good theme actually all the way through this conversation, is just asking, isn't it? And whether it's for support or guidance or courses. So Liz, Adam, Jane, thank you very much for this evening. Thank you everyone online. Let's just click off this quick one. Could you please tell me how to get to the course charts on the RWA website? So let me just answer that one. Yeah, the course chart is for shore-based and the big cruising courses, isn't it, Liz?
There is actually one which is for dinghy as well. So there is in training support. So if you go into training support and search for instructor courses, there is a PDF in there. It's only populated with ones that we've been told about by centres who are sort of wanting to publicise their courses. So there's often others as well, which is why I'd always suggest kind of looking around and seeing what else is on offer. But you can find out in the training support section of the website.
Fantastic.
And then on the last question that's come in on Maya, I'll pop you a message to find out which region you're in, because we can speak to the team and see what courses are local to you. So excellent. We can sort that one, no problem.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And have a good evening. Thanks
a lot.
Thank you.